Hey, what is going on, Twintendo Nation? Hope you're having an awesome day. Now in today's video, this is something that you guys have been requesting for a long time, and this is part 2 to the legendary locations video I did like 4 months ago for Pokemon GO. Now although we know what Pokemon GO is like now that the game's out, still a lot of you people want this, and I have done Diamond and Pearl locations like I think it was a month or 2 months ago, but because that was after I'd taken my break, not many people saw that video, so I'm posting a part 2. This is going to have 30 legendaries, basically Gen 4 to Gen 6, so I'm going to speed through these legendaries a bit quicker than I did in part 1, because we got a lot to cover. Now before I start today's video, I want to talk about 2 things quickly. First of all, I'm giving a copy of Pokémon Sun and Pokémon Moon away over on Twitter. There are 2 tweets basically for each copy, Pokémon Sun and Pokémon Moon, in the description. All you have to do to enter is retweet the tweet and just follow me on Twitter, and that's pretty much it. And since we are closer to getting 100k, which is absolutely crazy, if we do reach that, I'm more than happy to give away a few more copies, but that's just in the description just in case anyone hasn't entered it, because it's been a couple of months since I last mentioned it, so definitely do enter it if you want to win that copy. And the second thing I want to mention is how this video is going to work. So I do realise that legendaries and Pokemon GO aren't going to work like this. Most likely they're just going to be at events in cities. However, this video is just about where I'd like to see these events take place. Basically, these places in the video are locations that match the legendaries perfectly, and that's where I'd like to see the events held, but obviously we know that's not going to work like that. So don't take this video too seriously, and if you do have different opinions to me, then make your own video in fact, because obviously I can't share everyone's opinions all the time because there are so many different ones. But anyway guys, that's all the things I wanted to talk about. Now do remember there is no right or wrong answer where these legendaries are based. These are just my opinions and where I think they would work well. Obviously you can put them somewhere else if you want to. Let me know in the comments which ones you agree with and which ones you would change. As long as you have a good reason as to why you would change the location, then I'm happy. As long as we can put these legendaries somewhere on this planet, I think that's good enough. But anyway guys, let's start off with the Diamond and Pearl legendaries. As I've said, I've already made a video on this, so if you have seen that, feel free to skip to the 5th generation part onwards. So anyway, we are going to start off with Uxie. And I have placed Uxie at Lake Superior, and the reason for this is Lake Acuity is in the north of Sinnoh, and that's where you find Uxie, and Lake Superior is the most northern of the Great Lakes, so I think that makes sense for me personally. And as you can imagine, following the pattern, Mesprit is going to be at another Great Lake, and I put this one at Lake Michigan. Now the reason for this is because Lake Verity, where you find Mesprit in the game, I mean I know it is a roaming Pokemon, but where you do find its kind of habitat, it's based in the west of Sinnoh, and Lake Michigan is the most western of the Great Lakes. Now finally we have Azoff, and for Azoff I placed them at Lake Huron, and that's based in the east, similar to Lake Valor, so I think they're all nice locations. Again, a US location because I know a lot of you guys wanted more of them, and I think I would have chosen that anyway because they are very good locations, big lakes, and I can imagine finding a legendary Pokemon somewhere around there. But anyway, let's move on to the flagship Pokemon of Diamond and Pearl, Dialga and Palkia. Now for these two, I've placed them at the Sagrada Familia, which is based in Barcelona. And the reason I've chosen this place is because the Space-Time Tower in the Darkrai movie, where Dialga and Palkia were fighting, was based off the Sagrada Familia. And I'm sure you guys can see the similarity between the two, and it's also one of the most amazing buildings in the world, definitely something that should be on everyone's bucket list. So I think it would be really cool to have Dialga and Palkia there. Now next up we have Heatran, and for Heatran I have chosen Krakatoa, which is a very famous volcano. I'm sure most of you have probably heard of it. It's a volcanic island located in Indonesia. It was once a very destructive volcano, and in 1883 it killed 36,000 people with one eruption. Now it's not as active as it was, but it's still a very dangerous and famous volcano, and that's why I feel like Heatran would be definitely at home there. Now next up we have Regigigas, and for Regigigas I have chosen Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. Now this location has been declared a World Heritage Site and a National Nature Reserve. Although the formation of Giant's Causeway was caused by a volcanic eruption, there is a legend that the columns are the remains of a causeway built by a giant, hence the name Giant's Causeway. So I think this place would be perfect for Regigigas, and it's just an amazing place to go to. Again, another place that should be on your bucket list to visit. Now next up is Giratina, and Giratina was quite difficult to locate because obviously it's based in the Distortion world, which is obviously a parallel dimension. So I actually chose a place that a lot of you guys probably haven't heard of. It's called Yomotsu Hirosaka, which is located in Higashizumo in the Shimane Prefecture of Japan. Now the reason I've chosen this area is because it's also known as the entrance to the underworld in Shinto beliefs, so it's definitely perfect for Giratina, obviously because Sinnoh is located in a section of Japan which is Hokkaido. I just feel like placing Giratina in Japan, and especially the entrance to the underworld, is probably the perfect place. So it's quite difficult to locate Giratina, but that's why I've chosen Yamatsu Hirosaka for Giratina's location. Now next up we have Cresselia. And like Giratina, I also struggled to find a location for Cresselia, but in the end I chose a place called Molokini, which is based in Hawaii. And as you guys can imagine, I didn't really want to choose a Hawaiian location because obviously we have Sun and Moon coming out, but it's a really perfect location for Cresselia to be based at, because as you guys can see, it does look like a crescent moon, and obviously Cresselia is the lunar Pokemon, so I don't know, that's why I thought it would be perfectly located. But as you guys can imagine, I didn't really want to choose Hawaii, and there aren't really many other good locations for me to place Cresselia. So guys, let me know in the comment section below, where would you put Cresselia, because it's quite a difficult one to locate. But anyway, next up we have Phione and Manaphy, and for both of these I've chosen the Great Barrier Reef. Now if you didn't know, the Great Barrier Reef is the world's largest coral reef system, and it's off the coast of Queensland, Australia. Personally, I think the Great Barrier Reef is a perfect location for both Phione and Manaphy, even though their Pokédex entries might suggest otherwise, since Manaphy was found in a cold location and Phione was found in a warmer, more tropical location. However, I do feel these two Pokemon should be located together, since you kind of need a Manaphy to produce Phione, so I don't know, I think Great Barrier Reef is perfect for them. Also kind of reminds me of the Pokemon Manaphy movie, where they're swimming underwater with Manaphy, very clear, reminded me of the Great Barrier Reef, so that's why I've chosen Manaphy and Phione to be based here. Now next up is probably one of the most popular legendary Pokemon, and that is of course Darkrai. Now for Darkrai, one of my fans on Twitter called the Caesar ML suggested that Darkrai should be located at Park Güell. Now this is because this also features in the Rise of Darkrai movie, and it's also built by Antoni Gaudi, who also created the Sagrada Familia, where I placed Dialga and Palkia earlier. So personally, I think that's a perfect location. I feel like Darkrai should be based in Barcelona somewhere, and since this was included in the film, I think this is a very good location for Darkrai to be. Now next up we have Shaymin, one of my favourite legendary Pokemon, and originally I was going to place them somewhere in Holland because obviously they're quite famous for their flowers. However, I found this really nice location in Canada called Agassiz. Now as you guys can see from the pictures, this place looks incredible, and it's also got a mountain range in the background which I like, because if I chose an area in the Netherlands, most likely it would be a flat area since it is quite a flat country. However, as we know, Sinnoh is a very mountainous region, and I think this location definitely resembles Sinnoh, so that's why I definitely wanted to choose this place. Also, the reason why I like this location is because the flowers look very similar to the ones in Floroma Town. Now in Floroma Town there's a theory that the sudden outburst of flowers was caused by Shaymin, and I can imagine the same thing happening here, especially since the surrounding areas are quite bleak and just mountainous. It's kind of weird to see a flower field in the middle of nowhere, so I can definitely see Shaymin having an influence, and I just kind of wish that Shaymin would be located here in Pokemon Go, but obviously it's going to be at events and stuff in the future, but it would be nice to have an event here for Shaymin, that's for sure. But anyway, moving on to the last legendary for Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, we have Arceus. Now, originally I was going to locate Arceus at the Vatican City because it's arguably one of the most religious places in the world. However, I decided to choose Athens in Greece because it just reminded me of Spear Pillar, where Arceus is located in Diamond and Pearl at the top of Mount Coronet. Now the place in particular I'm on about is Acropolis in Athens, and this place does remind me of Spear Pillar, looks incredible, would definitely like to visit here sometime in the future, and I can definitely imagine Arceus being located here. So I'd love to see an event for Pokemon Go locating Arceus here, but obviously like I said, Arceus is most likely going to be in just every major city. That's how Pokemon Go events are going to work. But as you guys can probably see, this would be perfect for Arceus. Now anyway, let's move on to the 5th generation Pokemon, the Black and White legendary Pokemon. Now since Generation 5 was located in the US, I've tried to pick as many US locations as I could for these Pokemon. So first off, we've got Victini, and for Victini, it's quite obvious I've chosen Liberty Island, which is based in New York. Now obviously the reason I've chosen this location for Victini is because in Black and White you can find it at the Liberty Garden, which is clearly based off Liberty Island. So for me, that one was a really clear choice to make. Now next up we have the legendary Musketeers, which includes Cobalion, Virizion, Terrakion and Keldeo. Now for these 4 Pokemon, I've chosen Yellowstone National Park, which is based in Wyoming in the United States of America. Now this national park is probably the most famous national park in the world. It's incredibly beautiful, massive park, and because it's so big, it literally has so many different locations. You've got deserty areas, mountainous areas, grassy fields, all sorts. And I just feel like this location is perfect for these 4 Pokemon to train and just, just chill out, I guess is the best way to put it. So I feel like Yellowstone National Park is the perfect place for these 4 Pokemon. Guys, let me know in the comment section below if you agree with this decision. Personally, I can't think of a better location for these 4 Pokemon, but if you do, definitely let me know in the comment section below. But anyway, next up we have the Kami Trio, also known as the Cloud Trio, which are obviously Tornadus, Thunderous and Landorus. Now for these 3 legendaries, I've chosen Milos Island in Greece as their location. Now I know this probably sounds weird, but I do have a reason. Now in the anime there is an island called Milos Island, which also shares the same name as the one in Greece, and it's an anime exclusive location, and it contains Abundant Shrine and 2 other shrines where Tornadus, Thunderous and Landorus sleep. So for me this is a perfect location. It shares the name. I know it's not near the United States of America, which I would rather prefer obviously, but Milos Island works for me and hopefully it works for you guys as well. Now next up we have Reshiram and Zekrom, and for these 2 Pokemon I have chosen the Green Goat Palace in China for their location. Again, it's not in America, which I would have preferred, however there is a reason for this place as well. Now the Green Goat Palace is the oldest and largest Taoist temple in the southwest of China, and according to legend it is the birthplace of the founder of Taoism, Lao Tzu. So as you guys can imagine, this temple has a big connection to yin and yang, which is actually what Reshiram and Zekrom are based off. So personally I think Green Goat Palace is a good location for Reshiram and Zekrom. I would have preferred it in the US of course, but this location also makes sense. Now next up we have Kyurem, or Kyurem, however you want to pronounce it. For this Pokemon I've chosen Glacier National Park, which is located in Montana, United States of America. Now I've obviously chosen this area because obviously Kyurem is an ice type Pokemon, and I wanted to choose somewhere in America that would be suitable for Kyurem. Now an interesting fact about the climate is that in Browning, Montana, which is just east of the park, a world record temperature drop of 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is also 56 degrees Celsius, occurred in only 24 hours. In January 1916, when thermometers plunged from 44 degrees to minus 56 degrees Fahrenheit, which is absolutely crazy. So as you guys can imagine, it would have been possible for Kyurem to have caused that massive temperature drop if it was located in Glacier National Park. So that's why I think it's a perfect location for it. But anyway, next up we have Meloetta, and for Meloetta I chose the Sydney Opera House in Sydney, Australia. Now the reason I chose this for Meloetta is because obviously we don't have too many Australian locations, and the Sydney Opera House is one of the most recognisable buildings in the world. Now the Sydney Opera House is perfect for performance arts and singing, which Meloetta is probably famous for back in the Pokemon world. So I think the Sydney Opera House would be a really good location. Obviously there would be locations in the US that would be suitable for Meloetta as well, but the first one that came to mind for me was the Sydney Opera House. I'm not sure what you guys think about that. Let me know in the comments below, and let's move on to the next Pokemon. So the final Unova legendary we have left to talk about is Genesect, and for Genesect I've chosen San Jose in California. Now, the reason I've chosen this area in particular is because Silicon Valley, which is a nickname for the southern portion of the San Francisco Bay Area, is located in this part of California. Now, the reason I've chosen Silicon Valley for Genesect is because many technology companies are based here. So we have Apple, eBay, Facebook, Google, and many more. So since Genesect is quite a technological Pokemon and it needs different drives to fire different types of moves, I think being in an area surrounded by lots and lots of technology and different technology companies is a perfect place for Genesect, and also it's located in the United States, which kind of keeps with the Unova theme. But anyway, that is the Unova legendaries done. Let's move on to the Kalos legendaries. So first up for the Kalos legendaries we have Xerneas, and for Xerneas I've chosen Puzzlewood. And Puzzlewood is an ancient woodland site and tourist attraction in Gloucestershire, England. Now Puzzlewood is one of the most interesting forests in the United Kingdom, and the area contains strange rock formations, secret caves and ancient trees, which could obviously link to Xerneas, those ancient trees, and it's got a confusing maze of paths. Since Puzzlewood is such a special place, it's been used as inspirations for books and films. So first of all, some of Middle-earth in Lord of the Rings was based around Puzzlewood, and the same with Harry Potter, the Forbidden Forest was also based off Puzzlewood. And for those who've seen the latest Star Wars film, they recorded quite a lot of scenes in Puzzlewood for the forest scenes in the film. So Puzzlewood is a special area, could definitely see Xerneas living here, so that's why I placed it here and not in France, which would kind of link to Kalos. But anyway, let's move on to Yveltal, and for Yveltal I've chosen Death Valley, and the reason obviously I've chosen Death Valley is because Yveltal is the death Pokemon. It's basically the Grim Reaper. Now Death Valley is a desert valley located in eastern California, and it also holds the record for the highest reliably recorded air temperature in the world, which is 134 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 56.7 degrees Celsius. This temperature stands at the highest ambient air temperature ever recorded at the surface of the Earth to this day. So Death Valley gets its name because it's so hot, it's hard for life to live there. So I can imagine Yveltal living there where nothing else really can, and just kind of going around the deserty areas, the dry, dead landscape. It does suit Yveltal quite well, so that's why I'm placing it there. Now next up we have Zygarde, and for Zygarde we have chosen Krubera Cave. Now this was suggested by another fan called the Reborn Phoenix on Twitter, and Krubera Cave is the deepest known cave on Earth, and it's located in Georgia. Now in the games, Zygarde resides in Terminus Cave, which is quite an enclosed deep cavern, so it would make sense for Zygarde to be found in a very deep cavern somewhere below the depths of the surface. So I think this is a perfect location for Zygarde to be residing in. It's also a location where Zygarde can be untouched and undisturbed, so I think Krubera Cave is a very good location for Zygarde. But anyway, let's move on to Diancie, and for me it was quite difficult to find a place that fitted Diancie's kind of image, but I think I found a nice place, and this is Henson Creek Valley in Arkansas in the US. Now the reason I've chosen this place is because it's right outside a diamond cave, or it is a private diamond cave now, and I just feel like this place is really nice. I can definitely imagine Diancie just, you know, being around this place. It's really nice. I can't imagine Diancie being in a cave for the rest of the time. I just feel like it's one of those Pokemon that likes to wander about, as we saw from the Diancie film, so I feel like that's a good location, but it was kind of difficult to come up with a decision. So guys, let me know in the comments below whether you like this place for Diancie or would you change it. But anyway, let's move on to the next legendary Pokemon, which is obviously Hooper. And for Hooper, I was going to choose Dubai, but I'd already used that for Rayquaza, although it is still a good location, maybe for Hooper Unbound, let's say, because in the Hooper film, the city that Ash visits is actually based off Dubai, so it would make sense to have Hooper there. However, for Hooper's location, I'm going to choose the Bermuda Triangle, just because a lot of stuff goes missing here, and you can imagine Hooper being the cause of that, obviously transporting stuff through its rings and hoops. So I don't know, I think Hooper could be located in either Dubai or the Bermuda Triangle. Guys, let me know which one you think is the best location, or it could just have a different location for each form. I'm happy with either. But anyway, let's move on to the last Pokemon, and this is obviously Volcanion. Now for Volcanion we have chosen Blue Lagoon, which is based in Iceland. Now this was suggested by another fan called Mario Onage64, so thank you for the suggestion. So the Blue Lagoon is a geothermal spa, and it's one of the most visited attractions in Iceland. Now although this is a tourist location, I'd still like to imagine Volcanion being out here, or maybe just coming out when it's closed, just because it seems like an area it would definitely be suited for. There's so much steam and stuff, because obviously Iceland is a cold country, yet the Blue Lagoon's water temperature is actually really hot. It's between 37 to 39 degrees Celsius, which is 99 to 102 degrees Fahrenheit, which, as you guys know, is a very hot temperature. So it's definitely somewhere I can imagine Volcanion being, but since it is a tourist attraction, I don't know how it would appear, because I'm pretty sure Volcanion isn't the biggest fan of humans from what we've seen of the trailers for the new Pokemon film. So guys, that is all the legendary locations for Pokemon Go. This is just a fun video. This is not where they're going to be located. This is just obviously the part 2 to the video everyone wanted me to make. So let me know in the comment section below where you'd like to catch these Pokemon in Pokemon Go. Obviously I know it's going to be event based, but let's just use our imaginations, let's just have a bit of fun, and let's not take this too seriously. So guys, if you did enjoy the video, definitely drop a like, really appreciate it. And if you want to stay up to date with everything Pokemon Go and Pokemon Sun and Moon, definitely hit the subscribe button for more. But anyway guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one. Peace!